message. They need to understand that God has not called us to be sideline saints. He didn't call us to be contradictory Christians, but He called us to be purposeful people.
Yeah.
Those that are willing and ready to go to the extent of God's command and do what He's called us to do.
Yeah.
Those who need to know their own purpose, to need to know what God has called us to do in our lives, and those who ask the question, now that I'm saved, now that I've given my life to Christ, now that I've been baptized, now what?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Some of us have that question, what am I supposed to do? I've been saved. I don't see nothing different. I just got this saved experience. I don't really know.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do with my life?
Yeah.
And in this text, Matthew shares the conversation of Jesus as he speaks about a worthy worker.
Yeah.
Through the mouth of Jesus and the pen of Matthew, God displays the keys that exemplify the right kind of worker for the kingdom in a man known as John the Baptist.
Yeah.
I believe that this morning God is calling our attention to this text to show us what it is to be a worker in the kingdom.
Yeah.
And I want, just for a few minutes, I'm going to get out your way. Just for a few minutes, I want to preach from the subject, a worker for the kingdom.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell your neighbor, it's time for us to be workers in the kingdom. They did not believe you. Go and look at somebody else. I'm ready to be a worker in the kingdom. They didn't believe you either. It might be you. Go and look at somebody else. Can we go together and be workers in the kingdom? Let's give God some praise this morning. In the text here, Jesus had just finished giving this charge to the 12 disciples. He was beginning his fourth tour of preaching through the region of Galilee. John the Baptist had been in prison and sent word by his disciples asking if Jesus was the expected Messiah. Jesus sent word back saying, hey man, check me out. The blind received their sight. The lame are walking. Lepers are being cleansed and healed. The deaf can hear and the dead are even being raised up. The gospel is being preached to the poor. This is the evidence of who I am.
Yeah.
And as these men went on their way, Jesus began to teach the crowd and to tell the crowd and talk to the crowd about John.
Yeah.
Telling this audience of people about this man named John the Baptist, who wasn't there, but who was being testified about from the lips of Jesus. Because Jesus was saying to the people that they needed to know something about John that will impact their lives for where they are in their particular walk.
Yeah.
He began to describe the type of worker that the kingdom should have. The type of person that would be used by God in a way that is benefiting to not only themselves, but to everyone that they come in contact with. Can we walk through the Bible?
Yeah.
The Bible says in verse 7, I'm going to pick it up right there. What went ye out into the wilderness to see?
Yeah.
As he begins to talk about John, he asked this question. Because the people had come out into the desert places. They made a custom of coming out to go find John, wherever he was, and listen to what John had to say. So Jesus asked this, what did you go out there to see? A reed shaken with the wind? When I thought about this, when I looked at this example, I began to ask God, well, what in the world are you talking about?
Yeah.
What does this have to do with anything that you or I don't understand?
Yeah.
So I had to start studying. I had to start looking at what God was saying. And I believe that when God was saying and asking this question, He was making a statement about a worker.
Yeah.
The statement is, and the principle is, that if you're going to be a worker for the kingdom, you must be unbending.
Yeah.
Y'all don't see that. I'm going to show it to you. Here, Jesus begins to describe John by asking the crowd this question, this obvious rhetorical question. And what did you go out there to see? A reed shaken by the wind.
Yeah.
When you do your homework, you find that the reed of Egypt and Palestine grows between 12 to 20 feet tall. This reed is stalk jointed like bamboo. He begins to talk about this reed that is all over the landscape. Everywhere you look, you would see the birds harvesting their shade under these tall bamboo type of trees, and they would blossom into this magnificent pinnacle of flower and covering, so slender that when the wind would blow, it would lie down. And it would lie perfectly flat with a gust of wind. And then when the wind would subside, the stalk would flop itself back up straight. And when he looks at this, and I begin to think about this, that what God was saying about John, he said that, what did y'all go out there to see? A reed that was shaken with the wind. He's making an example about the type of people that are either in the church that are not like John. Oh, y'all don't see it yet. I believe that God is saying to us this morning that if you want to be like John, if you want to be a worker in the kingdom, if you want to be effective in kingdom building and be like what God is calling us, we cannot be like the reed. It looks tall and vibrant. It looks like it's growing stable and strong. It looks fortified. It looks like it's ought to be some stability to it, and it's got to have some strength to it. But